Some of you may or may not know that CES 2024 is currently happening, the Consumer Electronics Show. Every year we get some really cool stuff, and more often than not, we get some cool stuff from Samsung Display. Now, bear in mind, Samsung Display is not the same sort of company that makes the Samsung phones, but they do often make the displays for Samsung phones, and they will show off at events like CES various very interesting prototypes. And in this video, we're going to take a look at a handful of such prototypes and talk about how we think they may or perhaps may not be useful in real-world application. To do this, I'm just going to jump over to Threads because the unlocker, David Kogan himself, great YouTube channel, far better than mine will ever be. They posted several really high quality videos, and they just so happen to be in a format that is going to work very well for what I am doing. So let's go through some of these prototypes and talk through them. So this is the first one I want to look at. This is very interesting. This is sort of like a Folio style device that closes up. Obviously, that is a folding screen, but it's also a rolling screen at the same time. So not only does it open up, it actually expands and can be closed. It can also be closed and have this little side bit pulled out. So maybe you could have like a heads-up display type thing over there, notifications. You could quickly slide it out, see what's going on, slide it back, close. Basically, a giant Z Fold in some sorts of ways, but no cover display. Rather than a cover display, you've got this little bit of screen that can pop out from the side. Personally, it's kind of shocking that they've not already released something very similar to this already, like a true folding tablet, something that gives you, maybe that S8 Ultra tablet that's absolutely massive, but instead of having to tote this giant behemoth around, you can fold it in half and tote around a much smaller device. This makes a ton of sense to me, and the fact that they're also integrating the rolling aspect to it to expand things even further, it just makes me love it even more. I think this is awesome, and I think we will indeed see products that are like this in the not so distant future. So the next one is this device that looks a lot like a Z Flip. However, you can see that it overlaps. You have, cover display being done that way, but the other trick it does is this. It can fold around the other way. This is a full 360 folding device. Now, we've talked about 360 folding devices in the past, talking about, what Microsoft could do with something like the Surface Duo 3, right? Having a single screen, but also, being able to do the full 360 thing like they did with Duo 1 and Duo 2. Well, this is maybe the best looking demo that we have seen of exactly that sort of thing, a device that can indeed fold a full 360. And when you first think about that, and you think about Surface Duo and the 360 folding thing, you think, that's kind of cool, right? Because you don't need a cover display. You can just fold it around and you have a smaller display that can work as a phone. But when you really start thinking about this stuff, you got to understand that when you do that, you have screen wrapping all the way around. It's screen on the front, it's screen on the back. You better be sure that you don't, set it down on a table like that, because it's going to scratch the back of the device, which when you open it back up will be the one side of the screen. So while I do think that this is a really interesting prototype, I do wonder exactly what the use cases would be for it, because again, you open it up into that 360, folding position, and what have you done? You've rendered it much more fragile than it would be if it were simply in a phone position or closed the other way around. This is another really interesting one that's like a flip style phone, but it actually has the screen going all the way around the top. So rather than a cover display, that top edge you can see there would actually act as the cover display. I think it's very sleek looking. Personally, I think most people would probably need a little bit more of a cover display than just that, but maybe not. Maybe all you need is to see what notifications are coming in, see the time, and that might work just fine. It does kind of look like a phone that's had its head cut off, though. Like, it looks like it just kind of had the top cut off of it in a weird way, but I kind of strangely like this demo. So this next one is another large sort of size folding device, but you can see at the end The bottom half is definitely a lot thicker than the other, and this makes me think that this is slightly different. Obviously, you've got the scrolling component as well, or the rolling part of the screen. Keyboard on the bottom. I think this is meant to be seen more like a laptop, although now that I'm seeing it, the heavy part seems to be on the top, which I don't know how that would work, right? Maybe that's because that's where the scrolling part is. It needs to be thicker up top, but the bottom would need to be, if it's a laptop and it's sitting down, that needs to be where the weight is so that it doesn't tip over. This is similar to the first one, but a little bit different. Definitely worth pointing out still. And here is another rolling screen type of demo. Basically, the ability to have a screen that is fully tucked away. Imagine a future where instead of having a TV mounted to your wall, you just have a long sound bar and the screen rises up out of that sound bar. There's your TV. That's the sort of application that they're kind of imagining with something like this. And I think that that makes a lot of sense. It'll be a very, very cool thing to have because when the TV's away, you won't even see it. You'll just have this potentially quite nice looking bar sitting on your mantle or whatever it may be. And it won't look quite as bad as just the TV sitting there whenever it's off. I think a lot of us have like photos scrolling through the TV using like a giant photo frame at this point, but maybe hiding the thing away completely would be a better or more interesting way to go. What I'd love to know from you guys after seeing all these demos, do any of these make sense to you? Would you like to purchase anything like these devices? How could you imagine them integrated into your life? Which one stood out the most to you? Yes, of course, we've seen some similar things to this in the past. Samsung Display shows off these sorts of demos most every year, but there are some differences here and some different ideas that I thought would be fun to still talk about. Sound off in those comments down below. I will be linking to Mr. David Kogan's Threads account. If you want to go give them a follow over there, you can do so and keep up to date with what they're doing that way. Like I said, they're a great YouTuber. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.